All right, here we go. The mayor of Kansas City, Quinton Lucas, joins us each and every Thursday morning. And gosh, there is a lot happening in this town to talk about. To get it out of the way, and not to get it out of the way, but just to share this with the audience in case they didn't see it this morning on his social media pages. I don't see a point in spending a lot of time on this subject because the mayor put out a statement this morning regarding the recent discussions of a pardon, of course, for Eric DeValkenere. We had his wife, Sarah, on the show earlier this week that sparked a lot of conversation around town. The mayor saying here as part of his statement, "My voice will not join the debate until at least the conclusion of the appellate process." So we'll respect that statement, Mr. Mayor. But I will ask you, because in this statement you added that you won't be speaking out on any potential pardon, and you would predict the same from Governor Parson. Have you talked to the governor about this issue at all lately?
I have not. I respect his role in this system, and I respect how he has handled the pardon process. He typically, and I've known past governors as well, they go through a detailed review. This is something that is, while not judicial, it is an executive decision. It's something that they don't take lightly. And so, part of what provoked me to write on it was not so much the conversation that you had with Mrs. DeValkenere, and I feel for her and her children and their family, but also a lot of pressure that I think you are seeing on some local elected officials. I believe last week the Jackson County legislature made a statement. There may be a similar type of statement coming from the city council or members of the city council. It is my view that is premature. I think we let those who are supposed to have power throughout these processes, that includes the Missouri Supreme Court judges who now stand in review of this case, as well as the governor of Missouri. I'm going to trust them to make sure they're doing the right things. And to the extent that my voice is needed somewhere later, then perhaps it comes out. But I'm not even promising I have something to say later then. This is a tragedy all around, and I think that what we don't need necessarily is any further politicization of it.
Mm-hmm. All right, yeah, and I think that we'll be following, of course, and see if that changes in the weeks or months ahead. Now, you also were talking about this morning, and I thought this was interesting because we're all trying to figure out this fentanyl issue, and you noted here on your Twitter page, if you look at 2017 to 2021, you've seen an increase there in Kansas City of 938% when it comes to fentanyl deaths in this town. A lot of us, I think, and when I say us, I don't mean that politically. I just mean people that are following national politics, and you do as well, will point to the southern border. But I noticed you kind of poo-pooed that a little bit. So are you saying the southern border is not part of the equation here, or maybe not as big a part of the equation?
I think it's not as big a part of the equation. Yesterday I had the honor, frankly, to spend time with a KCPD sergeant who works in drug enforcement, spend time with a health department official, both of whom, pretty straight-laced folks who weren't political about it, were just saying, hey, here's where the problem is. Certainly our conversation noted the fact that during the years the border was closed, there was a scarcity in supply. But I think the problem, so I guess to answer your question, that would mean that there is some impact from what one does at the border and policy relating to it. But these people, Pete, and I think you know about it following the news, and a lot of people listening know it, some of these folks have such a strong addiction that even if the price of a pill goes up from $20 to $250, they're going to find a way to lie, cheat, and steal and try to get access to it so that they can continue to get their high. And so that's why there are important things we need to do. Part of that includes enforcement. Our department here in Kansas City, our police department, has done important work in shutting down some of the drug trafficking rings that are actually bringing these materials into Kansas City. That is very good for us. It's still, we still have a lot of people that are falling ill of this. That's why the health department side, on the prevention side, is important. But, I don't think there's one solution. And I think those who try to say there's one solution, like if we close the border tomorrow, everything would just be better. That doesn't quite solve it. We've got a complicated problem, and that's why I appreciate talking to police officers, health officials, and others who I think understand those complications.
So what are they saying then? I mean, in your meeting yesterday, what is the answer?
I think there are a few different ones that we need. One relates to numbers. I asked straight up, and by the way, I respect the chain of command. I told I wouldn't get the officer in trouble by repeating his answer, so I won't say too much. But, he said I need more people. And, he said in a perfect world, heck, I'd get some people who know how to investigate overdose deaths and that sort of thing. So not even people who are starting out, God love them too, but also people who maybe have built some expertise in it, whether that's from other departments, other parts of the country, or people in our own department who can do that work. humorously, the health department official said the exact same thing, that I need people to make sure that we're tracking down where this is coming from. Make sure, for example, if we're doing information campaigns, does it do any good to do a radio ad on Pete Mundo, or should we, do ads that are on TikTok, where a lot of our teenagers, whether you believe it's a bad site or not, are? And, those are some of those. They say we need a lot more education and information about what's going on with this. We do need enforcement. We do need to make sure that a lot of these folks that are pushing these things know that there are real charges that can come as a result of trafficking and even possessing these, such that they know they need to pick a better way, different way in life. And so, some of the traditional things are important. Some of the newer age things of treating it like an epidemic, like we've done communicable diseases, and tracking down where it starts is important too. Mm-hmm. And I think Kansas City is going to try to do all of that.
Mayor Quinton Lucas is joining us on KCMO Talk Radio. Of course, we're on 95.7 FM and still, yes, on the AM at 710. So on a similar note, with everything going on in town, I saw that you guys were talking about, and there's been some promotion for this Reconnect KC movement that is all about mass transit around the city. And, of course, getting mass transit up to the airport. We've talked about that before. But I saw this, and you got to explain this to me, why it would make sense to do mass transit for $1.5 billion out to the Truman Sports Complex, especially if the Royals move. What are we talking about with concerts? Maybe a couple of dozen days a year when that's relevant? Is that a good spending of $1.5 billion?
No. If that was the only thing you were spending on, I think it'd be a terrible idea. If, however, you're actually connecting, let's say, the University of Kansas Hospital at 39th and State Line to the VA Hospital, which is actually just a little bit to the east down the road, then you are talking about doing important work. You're connecting important corridors like Midtown Kansas City and the east side. You're helping workers get to work in both locations, and you're helping thousands of patients in both places. The question then for Truman Sports Complex would be, how much does it cost to extend from the VA hospital, which is a shorter trip, across, of course, a river, but, making sure that you're addressing those sorts of things, a small river at least. And so that's how we are looking at these things. This isn't just about the final destination. Same thing with links from downtown to the airport. Whenever we talk about public transportation and fixed rail, we're usually excluding the Northland. How do we make sure that that route is one that not only gets people to job opportunities up near the airport, future data centers, and all that's happening in the Northland, but how, if in the event we have some good stops along the way, do we stimulate more areas of Kansas City North where the population continues to boom? That's what we're working on, and that's what we would look at. And even a Truman Sports Complex stop would be something that's not just about the stadiums, but it's about Raytown, Independence, everybody who's it's actually the central portion of Jackson County, making sure that they have connections to the rest of our city.
Now, is this, like, when we talk about, is this like the streetcar as we think of it right now? And I ask that because I know that, you're a cultured man. You spend a lot of time in some of our coastal cities with all the hotshot high transportation. This streetcar is what we have here in town is not the mass transit trains of D.C., New York, and places like that. So are we talking a streetcar or are we talking a real commuter train?
Yeah, this is not a New Jersey PATH train. That is to say the least. And and I think that while it does very good work, really as a connector line to the core of our city, and I continue to believe it will do so as we expand to the plaza. Now, I think what you would look at en route to the airport is something more like heavy rail, light rail, but something that actually puts some speed to it. So I'd make it more like if you've been to St. Louis, kind of the light rail link that you might see from Lambert Field going into downtown Busch Stadium, something like that.
Okay.
And I think that's what we look at for the suburbs as well. I mean, I believe that this is just the beginning, actually, of a larger system. You look out the interstate right now over on 435. For those who traverse I-35 and are doing so right now, traffic continues to get heavier and heavier going through Johnson, Wyandotte counties, and southeast Kansas City and Lee Summit. I think that we need to look at what is good commuter rail long-term for our system. And I think this is just the beginning of all that.
Mm-hmm. Meantime, Mayor Lucas, who, of course, is here on KCMO Talk Radio, the Royals, we haven't spoken a couple of weeks. We're now a month past their self-imposed deadline, and it's been very quiet from the Royals, from Kansas City, from Jackson County. Where are you at with the Royals right now?
It is interesting, right? I've been telling you for months that, I think that this is going to be more of a business-like process. We have that summertime beauty contest. You had on all types of interesting guests who were, preaching about the decline of downtown, the rise of other places, all those sorts of things. Look, the conversations continue. I think that they will be judicious, professional, and I would hope at least confidential to such extent that they need to be made public about what is the best potential deal for taxpayers, what is the best approach to the future of baseball in Kansas City, and how much private investment will be there. But I think conversations continue with Jackson County, with the city of Kansas City, with the state of Missouri, and certainly with the Chiefs and the Royals. I don't see any change on the timetable of wanting something on the April ballot. Mind you, this is a tough time to put things on the Jackson County ballot, which with all that's going on with property taxes. But I think those conversations continue. It's just turned away from what was a potential kind of this big show as to which place would be picked. I don't think that made the Royals look good. I don't think it made our community look good. And frankly, I want to be a city when businesses are thinking about coming here that know we're a bunch of professionals, not people who are doing a bargain basement discount sale at the fireworks stand on who can get a baseball stadium. And I'm proud that the process has, I think, turned to that more professional approach.
Do you last thing here, just on we had a Jackson County legislator come on yesterday and suggest that maybe there's even a conversation that reignites around staying where they are at the Truman Sports Complex. Is that a conversation you've had?
No. God bless them. I don't think that is the Royals' future plan. I've said a few times on this show, I'll keep saying it, I think in 10 years, Kansas City Royals are playing in downtown Kansas City. I think they stay. I think the Chiefs look to build up entertainment venues around them. I think the Chiefs do stay at Arrowhead Stadium at Truman Sports Complex. But I think the Royals, their business plan, looking at baseball, want a substantial entertainment district nearby. And, of course, downtown provides one that already exists.
All right. Well, thank you for the time as always. Will we have you on next week? Is that still part of the plan? We got you next week? Or are you going to?
I believe I'm excited to be on next week unless something goes awry, like the Chiefs playing in Germany. But
are you going to Germany?
I have the good fortune of going. I know we can talk about that controversy coming up too. But
I'll
be there to see them.
Who's are we? Is the taxpayer footing the bill?
I do not think so. I will make sure that I check and confirm. On my last job, that was actually paid for by the French government as a guest of the foreign ministry, but I will make sure I confirm so for our next call, we have it all perfectly covered.
All right.
Usually on these trips, and it gets controversy, but usually Quinton Lucas is always paid for by some by a different source and all of that, not the taxpayers. I think that's typically the best way to do things. I'll make sure I look it up and report back to you fully, fairly, and get none of the trouble that the Speaker of the House in Missouri has gotten into.
All right. Well, you got your friends in high places, then you got your friends in low places here on KCMO. So we appreciate that. Have a great rest of the week.
Take care.
All right. That is Quinton Lucas on KCMO Talk Radio.